Welcome, everyone. We'll start this meeting now, meeting to May 21st, 2024, and there's an amendment to the budget under 10.4.4, a staff report. So welcome to all that are attending tonight. Just FYI, it's National Public Works Week. So we're very fortunate to have the incredible staff we do that work every day, 24 hours a day, and do a great job on behalf of members of council and our staff. So we're very fortunate for all they do. Just another update also, we have, I understand, Precious Blood School students are actually watching tonight, grades 4 or 5. They were here today around 1 o'clock for a tour of the council chambers. And thanks to Stacy Jeffrey and Mike Herbert, we had them in for some lessons and they were learning about municipal government. So welcome to those that are attending virtually tonight and anyone else that's attending also from their home. So I'll ask everyone to please rise for Canada. Again, welcome. Just a reminder to everyone, please ensure your cell phones are turned off or on mute. And we'll begin our meeting with the land acknowledgement. As we gather, we are reminded that the municipality of South Huron is situated on Treaty 29 land that is steeped in rich Indigenous history and home to First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people today. And as a community, we have a responsibility to honor and respect this territory's significance for the Indigenous peoples who lived and continue to live upon it and whose practices and spiritualities were tied to the land and continue to develop in relationship to the territory and its other inhabitants today. In the spirit of reconciliation and truth, we acknowledge the Anishinaabe and the Haudenosaunee peoples on whose traditional territory we are meeting. And we move on to that. Thank you, everyone. To item number 3, please. Ms. Mizuho-Collison.
That South Huron Council approves the agenda as presented.
And a mover, please. Moved by Councillor Neeb, seconded by Councillor Milt Dietrich. Any discussion? Call the question. All in favor? Carries with 7. Thank you. Disclosure of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof. Are there any disclosures at this time? Not seeing any. No presentations, no delegations, no public meeting. And we go on to number 8, please. Ms. Mizuho-Collison.
That South Huron Council adopts the minutes of the regular council meeting of May 6, 2024 as printed and circulated.
And do we have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor McLeod-Haggett, seconded by Councillor Oak. Any discussion? Call the question. All in favor? And that carries with 7. Thank you. Next one, please.
That the minutes of the following committees and or boards be received as presented to council. The Sable Bayfield Conservation Authority, draft minutes of April 18th, 2024, and agenda package of May 16th, 2024.
And a mover, please. Moved by Deputy Mayor, second by Councillor Vaughn. Any discussion? Call the question. All in favor? That carries with 7. Thank you. Next item, please.
That South Huron Council receives the minutes of the Exeter BIA of the March 27th, 2024 meeting, draft minutes of the April 10th, 2024 annual general meeting, and draft minutes of the May 8th, 2024 annual general meeting. And the South Huron Council approves the Exeter Business Improvement Area 2024 revised budget and the names of the members to the Exeter Business Association Board of Management as received.
And a mover, please. Moved by Councillor Oak, seconded by Councillor Neeb. Any discussion? Call the question. All in favor? That carries with 7. Next item, please. 9.3.
that the draft minutes of the April 29th, 2024 Committee of the Whole be received as presented to council, and that South Huron Council approves the recommendations of the Committee of the Whole as follows. Accept the county recommendation for planning fees and approve the proposed municipal fees being site plan application fees, municipal portion, application for recirculation, zoning certificates, cash in lieu of parkland, and that the above noted municipal fees be implemented effective September 1st, 2024, and remain static for the 2025 fiscal year. And that where applicable, the fees be increased annually on January 1st by the Statistics Canada Consumer Price Index for Ontario for the previous calendar year, September to September, for the periods of 2026 through 2029, and approve the building code fees as outlined at the April 2nd, 2024 public meeting, and that the fee increases be phased in with 75% of the full recommended fee implemented effective September 1st, 2024, and 100% of the full fee implemented effective January 1st, 2025, and that the fees be increased annually on January 1st by the Statistics Canada Consumer Price Index for Ontario for the previous calendar year, September to September, for the periods of 2026 through 2029, and approve the staff recommendations for corporate and financial services fees as outlined in Schedule C, corporate and financial services fees to the presentation, and that the fees be implemented effective September 1st, 2024, and remain static for the 2025 fiscal year, and that the fees be increased annually on January 1st by the Statistics Canada Consumer Price Index for Ontario for the previous year, September to September, for the periods of 2026 through 2029, and approve the environmental services fees as outlined in the Hemson Consulting Limited Comprehensive User Fee Review and Generation Study dated February 2024. Save and accept the reactivation of the closed account to be amended to $80, and that the fees be implemented effective September 1st, 2024, and remain static for the 2025 fiscal year, and that where applicable, the fees be increased annually on January 1st by the Statistics Canada Consumer Price Index for Ontario for the previous calendar year, September to September, for the periods of 2026 through 2029, and approve the transportation services fees as outlined in the Hemson Consulting Limited Comprehensive User Fee Review and Generation Study dated February 2024, and that the fees be implemented effective September 1st, 2024, and remain static for the 2025 fiscal year, and that where applicable, it is recommended that fees be increased annually on January 1st by the Statistics Canada Consumer Price Index for Ontario for the previous calendar year, September to September, for the periods of 2026 through 2029, and approve the fire and emergency services fees as outlined in the Hemson Consulting Limited Comprehensive User Fee Review and Generation Study dated February 2024, and that the fees be implemented effective September 1st, 2024, and remain static for the 2025 fiscal year, and that the fees be increased annually on January 1st by the Statistics Canada Consumer Price Index for Ontario for the previous calendar year, September to September, for the periods of 2026 through 2029, and approve the staff recommendations for community services fees as outlined in Schedule G, community services fees to the presentation, and that the fees be implemented effective September 1st, 2024, and remain static for the 2025 fiscal year, and that the fees be increased annually on January 1st by the Statistics Canada Consumer Price Index for Ontario for the previous calendar year, September to September, for the periods of 2026 through 2029, and approval of the staff recommendations for facility services fees as outlined in Schedule H, facility services fees to this presentation, save and accept Elliott Park to be amended to $10 a night, and that the fee increases for arena ice rentals be phased in with 25% of the full recommended fee implemented effective September 1st, 2024, and 100% of the full fee implemented effective September 1st, 2025, with the fees to be increased annually on September 1st by the Statistics Statistics Canada Consumer Price Index for Ontario for the previous calendar year, September to September, for the periods of 2026 through 2029, and that all other facility rentals be implemented effective September 1st, 2024, and remain static for the 2025 fiscal year, with the fees to be increased annually on January 1st by the Statistics Canada Consumer Price Index for Ontario for the previous calendar year, September to September, for the periods of 2026 through 2029, and that a draft fees and charges bylaw be prepared by staff for consideration at a future council meeting.
Very well. And a mover, please. Moved by Councillor Oak, second by Councillor Neeb. Any discussion? Councillor Oak?
Rebecca's mic wasn't on. Could you read that again?
Oh, no, I made sure it was. I saw. Okay, any discussion? Call the question. All in favor? And that carries with 7. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Carlson. 9.4.
That South Huron Council received the Community and Volunteer Appreciation Committee draft minutes of May 6, 2024 as presented, and that South Huron Council approves the recommendation of the Community and Volunteer Appreciation Committee that the terms of reference attached hereto be approved.
And a mover, please. Moved by Councillor Neeb, seconded by Councillor McLeod-Haggett. Any discussion? Call the question. All in favor? And that carries with 7. Thank you. 10, please.
That South Huron Council receives the report of Jeremy Becker, General Manager of Community and Emergency Services, handheld radio tender award, and that South Huron Council accepts the tender received from MRC Systems Inc. in the amount of $56,464.80, including HST.
And a mover, please. Moved by Councillor Oak, seconded by Councillor Neeb. Any discussion? Call the question. All in favor? And that carries with 7. Thank you. 10.3.1.
That South Huron Council receives a report from Alyssa Keller, Manager of Environmental Services, DWQMS 2024 Annual Management Reviews, and selects, there's a name of a councillor, as a council representative to participate in this review.
Is there a member of council who'd like to be on the review? Councillor McLeod-Haggett. Is anyone else? Very well. Can we insert Councillor McLeod-Haggett's name in that, please? Okay, so do we have a mover for that, please? Moved by Deputy Mayor, second by Councillor Vaughn. Any discussion? Call the question. All in favor? And that carries with 7. Thank you. 10.3.2, please.
That South Huron Council receives a report from Alyssa Keller, Manager of Environmental Services, 2023 Annual South Huron Landfill Status Report.
And a mover, please. Moved by Councillor Dietrich, second by Councillor Oak. Any questions? Councillor Oak, go ahead, please.
Yeah, and thank you, Alyssa, for the report. I guess one concern I have is the 13 years that we're down to now. That's starting to get real. And just wondering the progress of the expansion talks that are going on with ABCA and our other processes to get the expansion approved.
Welcome, Ms. Keller. Go ahead whenever you're ready.
Through you, Mayor Finch, it is noted that there is 13 remaining capacity years there, and discussions are still taking place with the ABCA. There is other options such as a leachate interceptor drain, as well as treatment at the Exeter wastewater treatment facility via force main pumping station or via tanker truck, but we are still hopeful on the negotiations.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, not seeing any other questions. Thank you very much. Councillor Oak, do you have something? You look quizzical.
Yeah, I guess I'm just, I know these discussions with ABCA have been going on for a couple terms of council, and just wondering what pressure we can start to put on, or where are the negotiations at this point in time?
Mr. Giverson or Ms. Keller, who would like to take that?
Oh, I would love to take that question, Mayor Finch.
Go right ahead whenever you're ready.
So through you, Mayor Finch, So there has been recent discussions with some of the new staff at the EBCA. There is a new general manager, and there is a relatively new land manager. So I've met with the ABCA staff as recently as about a month ago, and they're open to the discussion. They've requested more information, which will be provided. So the door hasn't been closed on this, and all we're asking the ABCA staff is to have an open mind with these discussions. Now, there is also a backup plan. So we'll conclude the discussions with the ABCA staff, fair opportunity to review, and then we'll go from there.
Thank you. Councillor Oak, follow up.
Thank you, Don. I know the discussion's been going on. I just, yeah, it's just the land garbage is one of our core services, and I just want to, because one of these days we could get a knock on the door with the Mid-Huron group, and then things really get real. So.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, not seeing any. Thank you very much, Mr. Giverson, Ms. Keller. That's excellent. Call the question. All in favor? And that carries with 7. 10.4.1, please.
That South Huron Council receives the report from Justin Finkbeiner, Talent and Workforce Manager, re-annual review of the Corporate Health and Safety Policy Statement, and that South Huron Council adopts the Corporate Health and Safety Policy Statement.
And is there a mover, please? Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Neeb. Any discussion? Call the question. All in favor? That carries with 7. Thank you. Next item, 10.4.2.
That South Huron Council receives a report from Justin Finkbeiner, Talent and Workforce Manager, re-annual review of the Violence and Harassment in the Workplace Policy Statement, and that South Huron Council adopts the Violence and Harassment in the Workplace Policy Statement.
And a mover, please. Moved by Councillor Oak, second by Councillor McLeod Haggett. Any discussion? Not seeing. Call the question. All in favor? That carries with 7. Thank you. 10.4.3, please.
That South Huron Council receives a report from Scott Curry, Manager of Communications and Strategic Initiatives, re-short-term accommodations 2024 update for information.
And a mover, please. Councillor Neeb, second by Councillor Dietrich. Any discussion? Councillor Vaughn, go ahead, please.
Thanks for the report, Scott. Okay, I know near the end of your report, you talked about the federal government potentially coming out with some new information, if you will. Do you anticipate that, from what you've read, that information is actually going to set out some policy or roles and responsibility? What are you thinking? I kind of get the sense from reading the report that you're thinking we should wait and see what they have to say.
Mr. Curry, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you to Councillor Vaughn. Thanks very much for the question. Yeah, there's not a lot of information available about the status of the federal program that's being developed. From what I understand, they want to basically beef up the powers of the Canada Revenue Agency to withhold tax deductions from STA operators. STA operators are required to submit returns because it's taxable income. And so to hold back expenses for STAs that are perhaps not in compliance with a provincial or a local bylaw. So the reality is we don't exactly know what that's going to look like yet. It doesn't make sense from my eye at this time to build a program until that's set, especially given the data that I'm seeing or not seeing on the levels of STAs operating in South Huron.
Thank you. Follow-up, Councillor Vaughn?
Yes, thank you for that. And thank you also for including all that information from Blue Water in terms of, you know, their post-mortem on what's happened for the first year. Okay, so last year we had a report, and in the June 2023 report, staff was basically saying there really wasn't enough activity and we should wait till we had some activity. And so we had it on our priority as an item that was done. And now we have a new update for this year and a little more information about what's happening with our neighbors. I don't have any problem receiving the report or looking at a wait and see, but I'm wondering if we can amend the motion slightly to, yes, receive it for information, but also to ask for a further update being provided at least on an annual basis so that we don't lose sight of this. Because my thinking on this is that we are going to have a rather substantial subdivision coming to the lakeside area. And so because Lambton Shores has an short-term rental bylaw and so does Blue Water, I envision, and I've heard rumors, which, you know, they don't necessarily mean anything, that there are those investors in that sort of Grand Bend area that are waiting for those new homes in South Huron so they can invest. I think as a council, we'd rather like to see that be homes rather than party town. And so I'd like to keep this on the radar screen so that we can have a continued wait and see before we have a problem.
Ms. Masuda Carlson.
Through the chair, it was designated as completed but ongoing, because we will continue to monitor this because this has been identified. So I'm not sure that we need to change the resolution, but I will keep it in the priorities as ongoing. The report, the first report was provided, and then it was in the report that we would continue to monitor, so that is what this report is bringing back. That we will continue to monitor it. Yes.
Councillor
Okay.
Kwan.
I'm fine with that.
Any other questions at all? Deputy.
I guess I have a question. Like if we receive complaints, which I think we have, do we have any authority to do anything about it? We don't have a bylaw that sends our bylaw enforcement officers out there. The police, I'm not too sure what they can do. So I guess my concern is when this happens, where do the people go to get help? Thank you.
Madam Clerk.
So through the chair, to answer your question, depending on what the complaint is regarding, it may fall under a different bylaw. So as an example, we may receive noise complaints. We do have a noise bylaw, so we would proceed to deal with the concern under that bylaw. We're working within the tools that we have available to us at this point in time, as there's no short-term rental bylaw. There's no authority to provide any enforcement under that, but we would go through the current bylaws that we have, dependent on if it was noise, if it's regarding animals, if it's regarding storage of waste, so like garbage, things like that.
Follow up, Deputy.
Yeah, and I guess that is my concern a little bit. We don't have anything that we can actually go out, and our bylaw officer doesn't come in the middle of the night when the problems are created. And if our police can't do anything, then where does the public go? I guess that's my biggest question. And I did receive a text in the middle of the night, and I went down and it was not very good. So that's why I'm kind of wondering where we're going. So thank you.
Ms. Masuda Carlson, comment?
I can start with it anyway. As far as a short-term accommodation is like the ones in Lambton Shores and Blue Water are licensing bylaw. So that is a whole different scope of a bylaw. It's not necessarily the bylaw enforcement. You would need, there's a different level of staff. There's a program. We of course could bring back information from that, looking at our partners as to what it has costed them. So it's a discussion on, are the level of STAs in South Huron sufficient in order to increase the level of service and do a different type of program that we don't have now. Now, It may be the case that that's a decision, that's a council decision. However, it's a balance, as you know, with this bylaw.
Councillor Oak.
Yeah, and I appreciate Deputy Mayor's concern. At this point in time, I believe we've only had maybe one complaint or two complaints by the same person. And so I don't want to get going down that rabbit hole of a bylaw for one incident, or we'll have bylaws for everything. I think we have to monitor it and see if it starts to get significant, then we'll have to maybe review it again. But I don't know whether a bylaw, quasi bylaw is really going to satisfy anybody when it comes to a complaint, unless we have a full blown rental policy and licensing and everything before you have any teeth that you could put into something. So, and I think for 30 or 40 potential short-term rentals in the municipality, I don't think it's worth having a licensing program myself. So.
Thank you. Mr. Curry, you have a comment?
Just one comment, Mr. Mayor, through you to council. So of course, the municipality has tools for dealing with complaints of this type, but individual residents have rights. There's also the civil court, right? They have access to the tort of private nuisance, for example. So if there's an ongoing situation, of course, our municipal position is we always want neighbors to work together to resolve their disputes. But if they do escalate, there's always the tort of public nuisance, and these cases can be solved civilly.
Yeah, and again, policing wise, the OPP can be called if it's a noise complaint, and it's called mischief, interfering with lawful use and enjoyment of property. And the officers would have to determine, does it meet that threshold of criminal offense, or is it more of a provincial offense where there's underage drinking or what have you? But it certainly allows the person that's being offended to call it in and have it investigated. You don't have to prove it. It's up to the officers to actually come in and actually prove it. They're just reporting the allegation. Any other comments? Councillor Neep.
Well, I guess one thing too with mainly my question for staff too is when we get more information back from the province and the federal government as to what kind of framework they're going to be looking at, we could still have some sort of bylaw that maybe does not regulate, but maybe just lays out certain requirements. Is that a possibility as well?
Ms. Masuda-Carlson, do you want to take that or?
Excuse me, Mayor, I can take that. That in itself would be a licensing. It depends on then the level of service for bylaw enforcement to go, or even in some cases, it could be fire inspections. It can be building inspections. Licensing bylaws have all different types of terms and conditions that you can have in order to issue a license. So it would depend on the scope.
Great. Any other questions at all? Okay, not seeing any. Thank you very much, Mr. Curry and Ms. Masuda-Carlson, for your time on this. And if there's no further discussion, I'll call the question. All in favor? That carries with 7. Thank you. Next item, please. 10.4.4.
That South Huron Council receives a report from Scott Curry, Manager of Communications and Strategic Initiatives, Community Emergency Preparedness Grant. This is a budget amendment. And that South Huron Council accepts the $31,250 grant from the province of Ontario, and that the 2024 Protection Services operating budget be amended to include $11,250 in grant revenue and expenses, and that the 2024 Emergency Services capital budget be amended to include $20,000 in revenue and expenses.
And a mover, please. Moved by Deputy Mayor, second by Councillor Neeb. Any discussion? Call the question. All in favor? And that carries with 7. Thank you. And next item, 10.4.5.
That South Huron Council receives report from Aaron Moore, Financial Analyst, and Julia Warwick, Director of Financial Services Treasurer, read 2024 Council expenses as of March 31st, 2024 for information.
And do we have a mover, please? Councillor Dietrich, seconded by Councillor Oak. And I believe Julia is here. Ms. Warwick. How are you? Welcome, Ms. Warwick. Whenever you're ready, you have some information to provide us, I understand.
Yes, thank you. Through you, Mayor Finch. It's come to our attention that there's just a change that needs to be made on this report. So, some training expenses were incorrectly recorded under Deputy Mayor Dietrich, and they should have been recorded under Councillor Dietrich. So that will change Deputy Mayor Dietrich's expenses to 0, and Councillor Dietrich's registration expenses would go up to $2,045.37, and accommodation staying at $950.40. That's all I wanted to mention there.
Great, thank you very much for that clarification. Are there any
Thank you.
questions for Ms. Warwick at all? Not seeing any, I call the question. All in favor? And that carries with 7. Thanks again. 10.4.6.
That South Huron Council receives a report from Aaron Moore, Financial Analyst, and Julia Warwick, Director of Financial Services Treasurer, read 2024 first quarter operating budget variance report.
And a mover, please. Moved by Councillor Oak and seconded by Deputy Mayor. Any discussion? Call the question. All in favor? That carries with 7. Next item, 10.4.7.
That South Huron Council receives a report of Kendra Webster, Legislative and Licensing Coordinator, and Alex Wolf, Clerk, Bereavement Authority of Ontario, the BAO, Annual Cemetery Report 2023, and Cemetery Master Plan Update for information purposes.
And a mover, please. Moved by Councillor Dietrich, seconded by Councillor Neeb. Any discussion? Call the question. All in favor? Oh, sorry, Councillor Vaughn, you have a question? Go ahead.
Yes, I did. Thank you, Mayor. Okay, I just going through the plan itself. It looked to me like in 2021 we had 30 columbarium niches available. We're now today down to 10. And so anticipating a need of 12 or something like that in the next year. And we've only got 10. And so I see that there's a budget item for 2026. And I'm just wondering, are we not shortchanging ourselves here? Should we be looking at this in 2025? Do we have enough time and money to respond if we have a need?
Madam Clerk.
So through the chair, yes, currently there are 10 niche capacity or interment rates for 10 niches available at the Exeter Public Cemetery. It is forecasted in the budget for 2026. It could be something that could be brought back during 2025 discussion if that's something council may consider. At this point in time, there is a landscape plan as part of the 2024 budget. Part of that landscaping plan is to provide for a location of the future columbarium, as well as possible other options like scattering garden. There is a process through the Bereavement Authority of Ontario that needs to confirm the location. Should it go in a space that there's currently a traditional burial lot lines for, they just have to confirm you're transferring rights for traditional burial versus columbarium. What staff have noted as well is for niche interments, there have been a couple buybacks recently where individuals have sold the rights back to the cemetery for the niches to then be resold. And further, as niche interments take place, that's for cremation interments. There's not as much of a time sensitivity for those types of interments as it would be a traditional burial, just due to the nature of the interment being cremation versus casket. So although there's 10 remaining, it may be something council may want to consider for 2025, but at this point, staff would suggest at this point in time to remain with 2026.
Councillor Vaughn, follow up.
The only thing that I might say is that as you get into the budget this year, you might want to think about that. I don't know all the operational ins and outs of everything that you have to do to make it a reality, but I just saw those numbers and thought we're cutting it kind of close. Is that what we want to do? Just my thoughts.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Councillor Oak.
I would agree with Councillor Vaughn. I think it might be something that has to be moved up to 2025 for sure.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, not seeing you. We have a mover and a seconder. If there's no further discussion, call a question. All in favor? It carries a 7. Thank you. Next item, 10.4.8.
That South Huron Council receives a report from Alex Wolf, clerk, reappoint engineer under section 78 of the Drainage Act for Coates Municipal Drain, and that South Huron Council hereby appoints William J. Dietrich, Piang, from Dietrich Engineering Limited as a municipal drainage engineer to prepare a report for the repair and improvement of the Coates Municipal Drain.
And a mover, please. Moved by Councillor Dietrich, seconded by Councillor Vaughn. Any discussion? Call the question. All in favor? And that carries a 7. Thank you. Next item, notice of motion. Are there any notice of motion that you're aware of?
There are none.
Thank you. 12.1. Ms. Masul Carlson, please.
That South Huron Council sets the committee of the whole for, is it June 12th, 2024
Correct.
at 4 p.m.
Okay, thank you. Is there a mover for that, please? Moved by Councillor Neeb, second by Councillor Vaughn. Any discussion? Call the question. All in favor? That carries with 7. 13, please.
That South Huron Council received the memo of Alex Wolf, clerk, municipally significant event designation request, Kirkton Rumble, and that South Huron Council deemed the 2024 Kirkton Rumble event as municipally significant for the purposes of the applicant obtaining a special occasion permit.
And a mover, please. Moved by Councillor Oak, seconded by Councillor Vaughn. Any discussion? Call the question. All in favor? It carries with 7. 13.2.
For this one, we need a volunteer, so that blank be appointed to sit on the June 5th, 2024 Court of Revision for the McClellan Municipal Drain, and that's a joint project with North Middlesex.
So would anybody like to be on that committee? Milt, excuse me. Sorry, Councillor Dietrich, Councillor Dietrich, did you say something? No, he didn't? Okay. Anyone? I'm sorry? Yeah, Beans plan. Okay. Would anybody like to be on that committee? Deputy, thank you for volunteering. Are you that day? Okay. Councillor Neeb.
What time would it be at? Is there any?
I can sit on too if necessary.
So that's at 6 p.m. in North Middlesex Council Chambers.
I can go.
Okay, and I can be an alternate if that doesn't work out for you. How's that sound? Okay. So do you want to include that in the motion then? Okay, thank you. And just for clarity, I'll have you read it.
That Councillor Need be appointed to sit on the June 5th, 2024 Court of Revision for the McClellan Municipal Drain with North Middlesex, and that Mayor Finch would be the alternate.
And is there a mover for that? Moved by Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Oak. Any discussion? Call the question. All in favor? And that carries a 7. Thank you. Next item, please. Mayor and Councillor comments and announcements. So are there any announcements at this time from members of council? Deputy, go ahead.
I just saw this morning that they started Main Street in Dashwood. The lot of shovels going, backhoes and high hose, hopefully done on time. And we had our first meeting for the new OPP detachment board, and I'd like to thank our CAO Rebecca for attending. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Any other comments? Councillor Vaughn, go ahead, please.
Yes, I just wanted to let everybody know I did go to the Thrive Summit at least one of the days, the Wednesday, May 15th date. And first of all, I want to make a comment that I think it was really a worthwhile summit for economic development. Maybe next time we move it off of May, if we can give that feedback to the county so that we don't have a problem with councillors who are out trying to create a crop environment. Bad timing. put it in May. But placemaking was sort of the first thing up on the agenda in the summit on Wednesday. And it was all about leveraging your local assets and your residents and being inclusive and creating sustainable, very cost-effective kinds of events. So it looked like a really fantastic marketing kind of approach to your community and to creating a very vibrant and lively environment. Rebecca was there, I was there, Stacy was there. We all came away thinking very positively that there were probably a number of things we could take a look at. We're kind of in the early stages of placemaking ourselves in terms of we're doing an awful lot of accessibility work. So we're making spaces where people can gather in an inclusive way. So that's a good foundational piece. So it started us really thinking about what are some of the other opportunities that we have that we can liven up. And I think there are a number of events that go on that we could sort of over time take a look to bring to a little bit more life. That was only one of them. We also had a brick by brick panel discussion where we had three different contractors talking. We had a fellow who was dealt with complete construction for renovating and refurbishing and repurposing old houses. So he had some pretty good stories there in terms of making the most of the things that are old in your community and bringing them back to life. Had a real passion for it as well. A fairly young fellow, Brock Hodgins, of Hodgins Building Center, he created a 73-unit apartment building and talked a little bit about some of the struggles he had with council. I'm sure we're very good at this by now. We've got so much development going on, but he did talk about how it's kind of a challenge when you first go to council and you're told this is what is required right now to move your development forward. You do those steps, you come back to your building department and they say, well, that's fine, but that was only phase one. Or now that we're into the site plan, we have these requirements. He found that very frustrating that there wasn't a sort of full breadth of these are all the things you're going to have to do from beginning to end. So I think that was kind of a good lesson learned. And then Philip Van Ray was there talking about barn dominiums, the one that they've actually created there. So so that was a good story to listen to as well. So Denise, she was part of the panel who's helping us with our official plan. She had a couple of bullet points she just wanted to share with the audience. I'm just going to share them with you. She said, we need to get our heads around density is not a dirty word. We need to start thinking about building up, and we don't wish to lose our farmland. So let's think about building up different solutions from the way that we've done things in the past, and make sure that when we're creating buildable areas that we're making the most use of our existing infrastructure. So I thought it was really, really a good summit, and I'll leave it at that.
Great, thank you. Any other comments? Councilor McLeod-Hagan.
Through you, Mayor Finch. Haskett, oh, not the old Haskett Funeral Home that's been converted into apartments. My oldest and I went and toured them 2 weeks ago. They did a fantastic job in converting those. And she will be the first one to rent a unit there. So she's pretty excited. We're just waiting for everything to be finalized to move in.
Great. Good. Any other comments? Not seeing any, yeah, so for myself, I've been to a few different functions. The highlight for me this past week, of course, was with PBS being here. And I was at Vera Armstrong's 100th birthday and provided a certificate to Vera on her celebrating her 100 years and being so active over the years. So we're very fortunate to have that history living amongst us. And she was, of course, a member of the World War II. And yeah, she was very spry. And a lot of people showed up for it at the Legion, so it was good, good turnout for sure. Any other comments? That's about it. Okay, moving right along to 15, and we'll just have them called out. If you want to pull, just say pull.
15.1,
Oh,
15.2, 15.3, 15.4,
Pull.
15.5, 15.6, 15.7, 15.8, and that includes 15.8.1, 15.8.2.
15.1, Councillor Oak, go ahead, please.
yes, thanks, Mayor. As always at the AMO conference, we usually try to request 2 or 3 delegations with the ministers. So just wondering what any thoughts about which ministries, but I think we should be requesting delegations for sure.
Yeah, I think Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing would be number one. Ms. Masua Carlson.
Yes, I would echo that. The Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing, we had at a staff level, looking at the ARL, the annual repayment limit, and more of a question of why is 10% considered high risk when we're allowed up to 25%? Kind of some of the background and on when was the last time it was reviewed? This policy has been in place for quite a while. Is it time maybe to revisit it? Those type of conversations with the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing, as well as maybe tack on how some of our successes for our housing, and as well just reiterate to the ministry that we're still advocates of density in housing.
I know when Minister Clark and I spoke a few years ago, he was interested in learning more about our position on ARL. So I think there's a conversation to be held with Mr. Calandra. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I think we could also ask about what is, what is coming with MPAC, like, or when, because that's been 2016 since the last time the number was, and so this is just getting dragged on, and it's costing the local municipalities tax dollars, lost dollars while we do these investments in all these projects that we're doing. So we need to put some pressure on them to whether they're doing a whole revamping, I'm not sure. There's talk that way, but something's got to give here, because property taxes is our really only true source of revenue generation.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Sue Carlson, go ahead.
I'll just add on a little bit. On our radar is electric vehicles, and this was brought by the fire chief. It's not quite yet. We're not quite there yet. He is going away to get a bit more information on this and bring it back. But there is a question about fire response with electric vehicles and how to standardize response, because there's a few intricacies for electric vehicles and fire response when the batteries. One of the other things, because one of our values is collaboration, and so for a more regional approach, reached out to our joining municipalities to see whether or not there was a way that if we could do some kind of a joint. It's sort of similar to how, let's say, Lucan Biddulph and Lambton Shores assisted us with our Minister of Health delegations. So I did get an interesting one back from Lambton Shores. They're looking at doing one for Huron Shores Transit, because they are starting to become a little bit more viable. So that's a possibility for us to maybe go with them for that type of delegation. As well, the other municipalities were going to reach out to their councils to see if there were and bring back some information. And the deadline for this is June 6th, so that I could bring back any more updated information at that time if council is good with that.
Great, Councillor Oak.
Yes, I agree with those. I was thinking with the council agreeing to a new fire hall in Dashwood, if there's a way to get in front of somebody to see what kind of grant funding that might be available for a building like that, and always the Minister of Infrastructure, the shortfall of with our asset management plan showing what we need to keep investing, just to keep that top of mind in front of them, to see if there's any type of programs. 2026 is coming around for provincial election, and so now's the time to start planting the seed of where they maybe need to invest some money.
Hey, Councillor Vaughn, you had something?
Yes, I just, in looking at fire services and, should we also be asking the question again about the Huron Park situation? And sort of where are we with that in terms of, it would be really nice to be able to sell that property for more than $1 and put some of those proceeds into a new fire station.
Ms. Masuda Paulson, comment on that?
Yeah, certainly I'll bring that back as well.
Okay, any other comments at this time? Okay, so do we need a resolution then, or what would you like? Is you good?
No, I think we've captured all of that. I'll bring back something for the next meeting.
Great, thank you very much. Okay, next item at 15.4, Councillor McLeod Haggett.
I would just recommend that we support this, given that it will bring a lot of people to our community and hopefully help our downtown businesses.
Okay, thank you. So we need a motion for that. So you're so moved, seconded by Councillor Oak. And do we need to read that? I think we're comfortable with what it is. So if there's no discussion, or is there any discussion? Deputy, go ahead.
Just as long as staff's aware of moving this into the building, because they need quite a bit of room too, so.
Yeah, I'm sure staff reviewed this already.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so thank you. If there's no discussion, I'll call the question. All in favor? And that carries with 7. Thank you. Okay, so nothing else be pulled. So we'll go to the resolution.
That South Huron Council received communication items not otherwise dealt with.
And the mover, please. Moved by Councillor Neeb, second by Councillor Oak. Any discussion? Call the question. All in favor? And that carries with 7. 16, there's no closed session, therefore no report from 17 or report from closed session. We'll go to 18.1, please.
That South Huron Council gives first, second, third, and final reading to bylaw 29/2024, being a bylaw to provide for the adoption of the 2024 tax rates and to further provide for penalty and interest in default of payment thereof.
And the mover, please. Moved by Councillor Neeb, seconded by Councillor Oak. Any discussion? Call the question. All in favor? And that carries with 7. Thank you. 18.2.
That South Huron Council gives first, second, third, and final reading to bylaw 30/2024, being a bylaw to authorize entering into a joint operation and management agreement with the Township of Perth South for the Kirkton Woodham Community Complex.
And the mover, please. Councillor Oak, second by Councillor Dietrich. Any discussion? Call the question. All in favor? That carries with 7. Thank you. 19, please.
That South Huron Council gives first, second, third, and final reading to bylaw 31/2024, being a bylaw to confirm matters addressed at the May 21st, 2024 council meeting.
And the mover, please. Moved by Councillor Neeb, seconded by Deputy Mayor. Any discussion? Call the question. All in favor? That carries with 7. And 20, please.
Oops. The South Huron Council hereby adjourns at 6:54 p.m. to meet again on June 3rd, 2024 at 6 p.m. or at the call of the chair.
Moved by Deputy Mayor, second by Councillor Neeb. No discussion. Call the question. All in favor? And that carries with 7. Thank you. And thank you everyone for participating tonight. Have a good evening.